Alright, so the last video that I'm going to show with our watercolor and gouache demonstration is going to be showing you a little bit about a material that I actually asked for you to purchase in your kit. I had each of you buy the process color mixing set of acrylic gouache as well. I think it's a really nice addition to expand your drawing tools and drawing kit into the color sphere. So what acrylic gouache is it is essentially acrylic paint. So its binder is not water-soluble gum Arabic. It's actually an acrylic plastic that will air dry. It has the same pigments though as our traditional gouache and our watercolor, and it also has a little bit of that calcium carbonate material mixed in to help keep the sort of finish of the paint matte and also sitting very flatly on the surface. But it's also gouache, both traditional and acrylic, is known for sort of bright saturation of pigments too, so it retains that. Why do you want an acrylic binder instead of a gum Arabic? Well, it's all about sort of permanence and predictability. Gouache, with its flexibility, the fact that you can mix right on surface, reconstitute it for its entire life, is a great element, but sometimes you'll find it moves when you don't want it to, and if you kind of try to create it, use it as a base color, oops, I put that in the wrong well, it's alright, and try and layer sort of colors that are kind of opposite of that base color on the color wheel, you'll end up getting muddied colors really fast, and it's hard to sort of fix it without just lifting it completely. So an acrylic gouache lets you get the same sort of gouache-like surface, but it'll dry plastic, dry permanent, and really stay put. So I've done the basis for this frog in the acrylic gouache, and you can see it's not moving. That little spot is, but I'll explain that in a minute. So I can put water on this leg, I can pull all the way to the green, and those colors aren't moving at all. And so for kind of creating predictable base colors, that's really what I recommend using the acrylic gouache for. But the reason I have you buy it, and don't just have it to share, is A, I think it's a really good material just for you to have. I think you'll use it for a long time as an artist, thoughtfully. But also, as you've probably encountered with all acrylic paints dry fast. And so buying enough of it for classy use, we'd go through it really fast. So you're going to want to set up a palette, but don't put too much in the palette, and kind of know how you're going to lay out a palette, knowing the colors you need and that you're going to use it, because it will dry out fast and you can't rehydrate it. The other thing about it is the calcium carbonate additional material makes it dry even faster, because kind of just as it does in traditional gouache, part of its job is to absorb the water, keep the paint on the surface, and so both the acrylic binder and the calcium carbonate are sort of taking in the water, helping it evaporate or be absorbed really fast. And so you're going to find your acrylic gouache dries even faster than acrylic paint does. So that can be annoying, but it can also be really nice. If you're working with a plan, you know that you'll lay down color, it'll dry quickly, and it'll dry very stable. You can also see it just has such a nice consistent pigment as I lay this down. It looks like a very finished kind of shape. So you can of course be kind of mixing your color on your palette using white and black or the other process colors to sort of create highlights, modulate the color on the surface. Orange. And I just find it a really kind of satisfying paint to apply. You might use your palette knife to keep your colors separate when they're in the wells. But again, this dries so quickly. If you muddy up your ink wells, it's not that big a deal. You'll end up cleaning your palette quite quickly. And I really do recommend just mixing little bits at a time. So I'm just laying in some kind of color shapes that make this form, I think, more interesting. It felt a little dark to me, so I'm lightening it up. Loosening it up a little with just a little spritz of water. I like better. And applying it to my drawing. I could add a lot of water and get a very sort of liquidy, washy effect. I applied the green background as a gouache wash with the acrylic gouache earlier. Dries on the surface, I just usually wet my brush, get it to flow a little bit more. I shouldn't say if it dries, if it feels a little dry when you're applying it. Once it dries, it won't move at all. So there I've kind of started adding some interesting shapes to my frog with the acrylic gouache. But what I recommend even more is to use the acrylic in combination with the traditional gouache. So remember, the traditional gouache, you can always reconstitute with water. And so once I have a base of the acrylic gouache, then I could decide to add details with the traditional gouache. I'm just adding some spots to my frog. Seems like it might be a good idea. I added some earlier before. But let's say I decide no, or the art director decides, no, I don't like that. I'm able to remove the gouache, the traditional gouache, completely from the surface. That spot had been dried for weeks, actually, at this point. And what you'll see is, by laying an acrylic gouache down before the traditional gouache, you've laid this layer of plastic that really prevents absorbency, and so you can truly completely eliminate the traditional gouache if you want to. So you can instead do a different solution. So now I'm trying laying in a kind of a gouache shadow over the surfaces instead. I genuinely don't like that, so again. I can lift it completely. Alright, so like I said, try using these materials in combination. I think you'll really like it.